IVM. Welcome to another episode of This Round is on Me. My guests today are the founding fathers, literally, of one of the coolest F&B groups in India, Hunger.Inc., which has under its umbrella restaurants such as the Bombay Canteen, Pedro, and the Bombay Sweet Shop, and more recently, delivery brands such as King Fu Canteen and Brun and Babka. We've always had a friendly rivalry between our groups and often find ourselves being pitched against each other for awards, press, and even team members. But since we made a pre-recording pact to not be mean to each other on the show, I'm going to admit on the record how much immense respect I have for these guys who have clearly built world-class brands that epitomize hospitality. Okay, Yash and Sam, that's the only compliment you're extracting from me today. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Gauri.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll go ahead with Sam. No, listen, this is the first time.
It's clear who.
This is the first time. Yeah, this is the first time I have two guests. So consider yourself very lucky to both make it to the show. I'm just kidding. But oh God, I'm gonna stop saying that because I'm not really. But I really felt that, you're both integral to this conversation today. And it's sort of similar to, I think, Jay and me, where we really complement each other in the business, play good cop, bad cop, and obviously bring our respective strengths to the business. And we realized early on while working together that if we didn't identify our respective roles, our partnership wouldn't last very long, let alone our marriage. So Yash and Sam, Yash, go first. Tell me how you define your role, and of course, Sam, you too.
So I'm normally the funny one. Okay, work-wise.
I love that there was no
Work-wise, I handle a lot of the operations and day-to-day activities, while Samir he can talk for himself.
Can he, Sam?
We'll try to, at least. I think it's a great point that you brought up, right? Like in terms of being able to sort of balance out what especially two partners are doing in the business. So I take care more on the marketing, on investor finance, those kind of things. But I think there is a lot of commonality as well. And I think that's why it also works, because I think we both bring a different point of view to looking at the same problem or issue or thought process. And I think that's where it really works. And it's truly been a long collaboration. We've known each other for over a decade, first as classmates at Cornell. And then obviously, as we were sort of putting together the first thoughts around Bombay Canteen is when we started working together. And then sort of now what we do together. Yeah, we go off in our own silos to do things, but there's always a meeting point where it's, I think, being able to have that sounding board in your life to be able to look at what you're doing is super important.
Right. But and you're so right that, having where sometimes the roles do overlap, and of course you probably cover for each other at times. And but I mean, they're bound to be like fights and arguments, right? Like I know we have a ton of those, and our different approaches to the business is often the reason for that. And I often wonder if we weren't married, whether we would even have lasted as business partners. But so it really does amaze me how you've both stuck together and not just remain fabulous business partners, but also great friends. So what actually is the secret to being this happy couple? I mean, how do you handle severe
I thought I was getting onto Gauri's show and not Oprah.
Oh God, I am so flattered. I am truly flattered. But anyway, no, listen, come on. Seriously, like how do you handle severe differences of opinion on strategy or operational matters? Or is it that, you guys have your respective sort of areas of responsibility and then, so you kind of have the last word on it, even after you've debated and fought and argued over, till the cows come home?
Yash, you want to go first?
Yes. So to be honest, we've actually fought only once in 10 years. about the most stupid thing ever. We do have disagreements on certain decisions or certain strategies or certain roadmaps that we want to create. I feel it's also because our personalities are a bit different. Like Sam is much more, I would say, not hot-headed and mature and responsible.
Mature.
Whereas I'm the more younger, hot-blooded, not mature person. So I guess that it helps, but I don't think so. There are a couple of things that we overlap on, right? Like overall strategy, bringing culture, which is really important to us for Hunger.Inc. I feel what works for both of us is the fact that we've worked in this industry independently, and we understand how this sense of humility to the table. But we found our way, I feel, of just being extremely frank with each other when it comes to things, but not say it in a way that can be insulting. I feel, especially in front of, whenever we are meeting in front of our team, I think it's very important to both of us that we speak our mind, but not contradict each other, because it's important to be united and make them feel that, we are together in this and not start. The first argument and the last fight that I was talking about, we had it in front of our team. And at that point, Chef Floyd, who was also a founder with us, took us outside the restaurant and sat us down and told us what we had done and how it was going to affect the entire team. I think since then, we've been extremely lucky with the time we spent with Floyd, that he kind of mentored us, was that father figure, and was able to help us build this relationship, because Floyd and Sam were really close before. And me and Sam were really close. We three, it came together. And I feel now with me and Sam, there's always that understanding that whatever our personal opinions might be, the decisions we are taking are for the betterment of the company. So as long as we have that respect and trust in each other, I feel the arguments don't matter anymore.
Yeah, and I think...
Sam, do you want to add anything to that?
Exactly to what Yash said. I think the only thing I will add to that is also that when there is a sort of difference in opinion, I think you also realize that there is a certain sort of experimentation and iterativeness with which we approach what we do, right? And we are not going to be right all the time. So if someone is presenting a point of view which is making sense and you might not completely agree with it, I think it's okay to just go with the flow and see where it lands, versus being like, this is my way or the highway, which gets us nowhere. So, and I think we both sort of adopted that philosophy very, very strongly. And I think if at a certain point one is feeling stronger than the other, letting that person sort of see it play out, and then seeing you and run with it and see what happens.
Run with it, yeah.
Because we have the relationship where, we can catch up for a drink and discuss it. In today's day and age, people talk a lot about work-life balance and how founders need to be able to switch off. I don't think that's possible for founders. I know there were times on which I used to argue things on WhatsApp with Sam, and then I used to be like, now we'll be like, I didn't agree with this. I'm coming over. Let's get a drink and discuss this. I think having that comfort helps.
Right.
Exactly.
No, and also I think a huge part of this is try to have the same end goal in mind, which is, what's best for the business. And I think that as long as you trust that you both, are on the same page as far as that's concerned, then, it's really a matter of opinion and being able to convince each other. And, but I think that that's really key. And I always talk about this when it comes to Jay and me, that because we're married, obviously there's implicit trust, and I value that beyond anything else. But I think that that's even harder when you are two individuals who really have to work at it. So I think that's really commendable. But there is sort of, there is a sort of third wheel in a way, which is the chef factor, right? So, we're all restaurateurs, not chefs. And we've both begun our restaurants with incredibly talented chefs who've, gone on to make their indelible mark on the industry. And, but I think both in the case of Alex and Thomas, they seem to outgrow what we respectively started together and moved on to other things. So what's your learning from this? How did you deal with the fact that, chefs may come and go, but you both will most probably always be
I
around.
think
Is that kind of how you see it?
there are various sort of nuances to this, right? And I think the most important thing is obviously all of us started with a certain point of view and our journeys together. I think, right, if I dial it back right to the beginning, right, like Yash and I came together at some point in 2012. I was in New York, Yash was in Singapore, and we started jamming on ideas of what we just wanted to open a restaurant and what kind of restaurant do we want to open. And we slowly sort of started putting the thought process behind Bombay Canteen together. But we both knew we couldn't cook. And at the end of the day, what's going to bring people back is the food. And that led to that first conversation with Chef Lloyd. Eventually, that we came to an understanding over there, and we knew we needed to have someone who was there in the kitchen every day because Chef Lloyd wasn't going to move from New York. And that's how Thomas came on board. And we all built something together, which was amazing. But I think each one of us, while obviously there is this understanding that we're here to build the business, we are also on our own personal journeys. And I think what it became clear to me that as long as we are able to be, what my learning through all of this has been, as long as we are able to be together in the best possible way while we are there as a team, each one also has the freedom to go and do what they want to do because it's their life to live as well. And I think that's perfectly fine because at the end of the day, we all still remain friends. We are all still sort of looking out for each other. And I think that's the sort of way in which I would like to continue things and live my life. So I think from that perspective, it's definitely been an immense learning curve and an immense sort of almost honor that all of us were able to be together for as long as we were, and for different reasons, obviously, life has taken over, but we'll continue to sort of building on what we've started.
No, absolutely. And, I mean, of course, that's, everyone has their sort of individual goals and ambitions. But that's where I'm kind of coming back to the two of you. Like, do you feel like you're that constant where people may come and go when it comes to your sort of what you've built?
I see. The thing is, let's say what happened with Chef Lloyd, as in we could have never predicted that, right? He was always going to be with us for the long term. Chef Thomas was also a partner with us at Hunger.Inc, right? So we were all together in this, founders for Bombay Canteen as well. I agree with Sam to say, we all have our personal journeys and our ambitions. And I think 2014, I think Thomas joined us in 2020, right? So it's around 6 years. I feel all of us evolve and our ambitions keep evolving and we need change. I don't think it is a thing about coming and going. I feel it's how do we all get on certain journeys together where we work together as partners as long as it's enriching everyone professionally and personally, right? It is like obviously Samir and me have been the constant in this situation, but we have always been open to getting people on board who are partners with us on the longer journey because that's where we see what the vision of Hunger.Inc fulfilling, because it won't just be chefs tomorrow. Like, for example, with Bombay Sweet Shop, what we want to create is a brand that brings back mithai in not just the product, but in terms of experience, in terms of the way we deliver it to people. And it's a skill set that both Samir and me don't have from an e-commerce or a tech point of view. So if tomorrow we find a mind that resonates with us and who we feel can add to our journey, we'll always be open to that because we really believe in building a bench strength which will help us grow further. So at the end of the day, journeys are long, and at some point you'll reach a station where someone gets off because that's where they might have a different journey. So I feel as adults, we've maintained relationships. We've made sure that we all bid best of luck to each other. But I don't think it's about coming and going. I feel at the end of the day, both sides need to enrich towards a journey, which is like for us, our product is really important. So having the right chefs, having the right team on board, having the right bartenders, the mixologists on board is also important.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And I think I'll share my sort of where I'm at right now. I mean, we just sort of completed 10 years, and it's almost like that equivalent of the 7-year itch, where I feel like podcasting is my life now. No, but no, I mean, jokes apart, like I think that, whether you've founded a business or not, like everyone kind of has a point where you might feel like, I want to sort of explore different things. And I think that's perfectly normal. And as long as you're sort of able to sustain what you've built and bring sort of new life, new blood into it, that's no bad thing. And it probably will be great for the business.
No, and so just to sort of, as you were saying that, I think even when it comes to both of us, right, like we need to constantly be giving each other that space to be able to do what we feel like doing, and not everything we'll want to do is in relation to Hunger.Inc.
Exactly.
Only, right? A month ago, Yash was like, I want to take a month off and go learn how to surf. And yeah, he should.
Did you, Yash?
He said you could because he knew there's lockdown. I can't go anywhere. He's like, you can go surf the internet.
Yeah, no.
So there you go. Like,
yeah. So no, I mean, do you ever feel like you need a crash course in celebrity management when it comes to chefs? I mean, you've got a bunch that you you work with. So
now I know why you never sent us those questions before the podcast.
What? This is a perfectly valid question. I mean, I don't
think you need celebrity management. You just, I think it's just about human being management. I think it's all the same.
No, I often joke about this. I say that, I feel like a kindergarten school principal sometimes, and it's not just about chefs or anyone. It's the whole team. There's a lot of, as you said, human interaction that has to be sort of deciphered.
But I think that's the beauty of it as well, right? Like, I think I think the one thing I always sort of wear I'm very proud of is the fact that we have such diverse points of view on the table at Hunger.Inc, right? Like, and then does that mean everyone is going to view the same thing at the same time in the same lens? No, it's not. But actually, that's what's going to make what we are doing better, because there is something we are trying to do which we might not have had the experience at, but and I'll give you the example of what we did when this lockdown came across. I'm sitting at the table where literally the whole team came together. The lockdown was announced on a Sunday. On Monday morning, we sat together. We literally whiteboarded and put up sort of 20 different ideas up there saying what we want to do, and we whittled it down into what became King Fu Canteen and Bun and Babka. Would we have been able to do this in any other way within 3.5 days to bring 2 brands to life from scratch, from menu testing to ops to packaging to branding to etc.? Not at all. It's that power of that diverse point of view, skill sets, thought processes is what makes it possible at the end.
And
I mean, you're absolutely right. Sorry, go ahead.
And also, like, whoever's listening to this podcast, I know we sound like the Dalai Lama, but we do have days when we are banging our head against the wall, when there are certain egos that go higher than the company's vision. So we do have our bad days, but I feel at the end of the day, if you can sit across a table and speak to people and convince them of what we are trying to achieve, it's worth it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I want to talk about the 2 new brands in the portfolio as well a little later. But, as restaurateurs, sort of talking about a different aspect, as restaurateurs, we're responsible for literally everything other than, maybe the cooking part of it, as you said earlier. And of course, hospitality is an equally important aspect of the dining experience as is the F&B aspect. So, but do you think people who write about restaurants recognize this enough? If I was to give an example, I've always heard of, before they parted ways, Daniel Hum and Will Guidara being talked about in the same breath and with equal importance. But you don't tend to sort of hear that enough here about, what's happening on the hospitality side. Would you agree?
I do agree with that. It's something that I've raised a couple of times on my social media as well, to talk about the fact that a restaurant is equally handled by a chef as much as the GM or the bar manager or the mixologist. I think it's something that we as a culture need to get better at, right? Like when any restaurant we used to walk into, we do not treat the server or the waiter as an equal. I think that's the point when you'll start having more people talking about hospitality. Like if you look at now what's happening in the US, a lot of servers and waiters are not coming back to work, right? Even they are going through the same cycle. Because I feel, forget the low pay and long hours. If you don't get respect and integrity at work, people are not going to come back. And similar in that same fashion, I've honestly not, other than a couple of stories about front of house in India, maybe one by Veer Sangvi, which spoke about the hospitality in hotels and how great GMs make hotels. I've not seen anyone talk about it, and I feel it will come through slowly, because I feel a restaurant atmosphere or ambience is made equally by not just the food, but also the person handling your table.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I know both your restaurants really stand out for their incredibly warm hospitality. What does hospitality mean to you? You know, how do you sort of inculcate this in the team? Or is this something that, you know, can't be taught and it is an innate quality that someone in the restaurant business needs to have?
No, I think it definitely can be taught. I think it just requires a focus, right? And I think the whole as in you asked the question, what is hospitality? At the end of the day, it's taking care of someone. It's having that conversation with someone. And I think to Yash's point earlier, I think for the longest time, we talk about this a lot internally, like service is basically, for the longest time in India, service is basically equal to servitude. Like you just have to like be there and do whatever bidding is asked for you. And that is not the case. And I think both Yash and I at different points in our lives went through this sea change, having worked in India, and then you move to Southeast Asia or the US, etc. You see that it becomes a conversations amongst equals. And I think a lot of what we have done over the years is to sort of normalize that having of that conversation. How do you sort of train someone to, first of all, it starts with giving those on our team the confidence to have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, like one of my favorite things to do personally is go sit at a bar and like, even if I'm alone or with a friend, like eat at a bar, because you can have a conversation with the bartender because that's just the way you're sitting, right? And how do you make that happen over here is something we focused a lot on, and something that Yash has worked a lot on through all the teams that we have working on the ground, and sort of led the charge on that.
No, I mean, I know that. I see that, you know, I see that when I come there. I see that from the way you talk about it. And it's exactly, you know, the way I think about it is, or what I tell the team is that, you know, we're not the only people serving burgers or pasta or whatever it is, or a salad. And yes, you know, the food might be of a certain quality, but to get people to come back again and again, it needs to feel like, you know, home away from home. And how do you do that, right? So it's literally like welcoming people into your home, and that's sort of the starting premise that the way I try to kind of communicate it to our team, that you know, that's how you have to make people feel like they're coming to your home. So we're going to take a quick break here before we talk a little bit more about the current situation that we all find ourselves in. So stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week on the IVM Podcasting Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I would like to thank the sponsors of the network this week, Cred, Seth, and PayPal. Thank you so much. You make everything possible. Before I recommend a couple of episodes, I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about Ankush Champanerkar. Ankush was a team member who we lost due to COVID-related complications. He was a really fun guy, and I wish I knew him better than I got to know him in the short time he was with us, but I hope that you can remember him in your thoughts and prayers. Also, a quick reminder about Pod for Change, the initiative set up by the podcasting community, along with Give India, the NGO partner. You can go to tinyurl.com/podforchangeindia, and I'm sure that it would be much appreciated, any donations that you could give. With that, let me quickly give you a couple of highlights from this week. Aditi Mittal was on Cyrus Says. Great episode, do check that out. On the Habit Coach, Ashton talks about using the word impossible and suggests some better alternatives. On Advertising is Dead, Varun was joined by Harsh Lal, the co-founder of the Soul Store. On This Round is on me, Gauri talks to Pankit Desai, who is the co-founder and CEO of Secure Tech. And finally, I'd like to mention that we have a new show called Tere Mere Raste, hosted by Keshav Chaturvedi. This time it's a trip to the beautiful blue city of Jodhpur, but every week he's going to tell you about his travels as a photographer. It's really well put together, really well done. I couldn't be more excited about the show. Please do definitely check that out. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
So welcome back. I've got Yash and Sam here with me from Hunger.Inc. and we are talking all things hospitality. So, we were talking about the team just before the break. Let's talk about lockdown and the completely surreal situation we find ourselves in today. Yash, you put up a post not long ago about taking care of your own before taking care of others. And I've had a similar sort of experience or dilemma myself. But tell me where this sort of thought process came from.
As in two things, it was more also about, since lockdown was announced a year ago, both Samir and me have been on the ground helping our team, as simple as delivering orders or packing the orders with them, because I genuinely feel that our team takes a risk coming into work every day, right? Yes, they might not be as risky as frontline workers working in hospitals, and we respect what they do. But I owe it to my team to be coming into work every day, and I owe it to them that I take care of them for doing that as well. Generally, from a human being point of view. And when the second lockdown got announced, in all honesty, I called Sam. I remember it was a Sunday, and I told him, I've been going into work and I just see more ambulances passing me by. And till a year ago or the whole year, I never felt scared. And today I'm really scared. And I feel we should just call the team together to ask them, are they feeling safe enough to come into work? Like, that was the first question I just wanted them to answer, that because we are taking every precaution possible. We do testing, surprise testing. But do they feel safe? So that's where we started with. And as the week progressed, I think the country went into a sense of chaos. And I feel there were some people who came out of that chaos and were acting and really helping out people. Where, to be honest, there were people like me who felt that I should be doing something and I wasn't. And I felt really helpless. And I felt this sense. And it was also someone who said something to me that I hate being called an influencer, and I don't think I'm 1% an influencer. But someone called me out saying, you should be doing more with the kind of followers you have. And with Hunger.Inc, we always believe in, if we take up a mission or something, we're going to do it wholeheartedly. So in the middle of the pandemic last year, we still did a charity lunch called the Dawat for the farmers, because we've adopted a village and we take care of those families. But when it happened this time, I honestly was feeling extremely helpless, being like, I really don't know how to do it, because I am physically tired, mentally tired, but at the same time, I'm lucky. I'm privileged that if something were to happen to me, someone would take care of me. So I wanted to write it because I felt that if I, as a founder, felt that, I'm sure there are a lot of people who felt the same and were beating themselves up about it. Because I did beat myself up about it, because I had lost someone really close that week. And I was really angry about the way it went about. And it was more an anger, but I let that anger subside. And then I wrote that post because I needed to say it, because I know I'm taking care of my team and I don't need to tell anyone about it, but I need people to also know that this is a time that no one faced before and no founder is ready for this. So to just expect everyone to stand up and make themselves count might be putting undue pressure on people. And that's the reason why I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely feel you. And I think that, we actually went through something similar in the first lockdown so we do this monthly charity bake sale where, 100% of the proceeds go to a different NGO every month. And when we were finally allowed to resume that I think it was around September last year, even before restaurants could open, takeaway or pickup format. And I was like, listen, this is, let's restart this. Like, let's, do this again. There's obviously like so much need right now. And instantly, and in fact, I still remember this. One of the things that was like really sort of upsetting me was the photographers at the Gateway of India. They basically had no custom, obviously, for the last, whatever it was by then, 6 or 7 months. And they hang out near our office during their lunch break. And it was just really sort of disheartening to see that, they didn't even there was no choice for them, right? And there's so many people in that situation, but them being sort of close to our place of work, it sort of, I guess, hit me a little more than the others. And I was like, we have to do something. And then we actually had a team meeting where, people who were who hadn't been able to come back to work and, possibly weren't being paid, to sort of be almost in a way taking care of others and not your own. It sort of wasn't necessarily going to go down so well with our team members. And I know this almost sounds selfish and, sort of heartless, but it's not. It's a reality that we really had to think through before we could, extend ourselves outside of our own organization. And I think that there's no shame in talking about this and, admitting that we felt that this was our priority at the time. Yeah, I think that it's a really tough conversation to have and decision to make. But, I completely understand where you're coming from. And, I actually want to share with you, and this is where this sort of idea of talking to you guys also came from, because I do feel that, yes, our industry has really rallied together in the last year. And, I think come together like never before. And, been very supportive of each other. But this whole sort of situation of the lockdown and what it's brought with it has thrown us into situations that we, like you said, have never sort of dealt with before, had to make decisions that we've never been put in a place to make before. And you often just don't know the right answer. There maybe isn't a right answer. And I sometimes miss not like having someone to, talk to about it. And I was like, I remember I asked you about, 2 weeks ago if we could record together. And it actually came from a place where I was going through something particularly nightmarish, actually, where we found ourselves, at that time of the month, basically payroll. And, you guys have multiple brands, as do we. And some are obviously doing better than others, during lockdown. And we were faced with this dilemma of whether to cut salaries across the board to compensate one brand for not doing as well as the other. And whether it was unfair to make a team that was doing, that was performing better, just not because anyone was doing something right or wrong, but just the way things are right now, and sort of force them to take a pay cut, even though they might have actually been doing better than performing better financially compared to pre-lockdown. I mean, fortunately, we didn't end up having to make a decision one way or the other, and but it's still something that I'm not able to kind of entirely get my head around, and I just wondered, I kind of like reached out to you to do this episode almost like because I was like, I need to talk to someone, and I know we're doing this a lot later, and it's that sort of moment has passed, and but how do you deal with a situation like this? Like how do you deal with now you guys have 5 brands as well. Some are new, some are sort of very entrenched. And how do you deal with this situation where, something might be doing better than the others? And how do you think of yourself as one big organization and everyone else needs to think of it that way, even though they're not really involved with, each other's operations?
So if you look at it, honestly, it is the second strategy that you spoke about. We at Hunger.Inc. believe that we told them this a year or something ago. We had actually made this document. I think we need to go back to it. Is that our entire goal till lockdown is to just make Hunger.Inc. survive. Like, let's all put our heads together, our energy together. We need to just survive. survive mentally, physically, take care of each other. So at that point, we were like, it doesn't matter which brand is doing well, which is not. If you remember last year, actually, we didn't even have Bombay Canteen running. We only had Pedro and we had Bombay Sweet Shop. And what we didn't tell people was actually Bombay Canteen was shut because it had suffered huge damages during the monsoon due to just negligence of certain neighbors. There was huge damage and we couldn't afford to bring it back to life. So we couldn't even keep that going. So we actually moved that team over to Pedro. And so that time also we told the same thing, that although this has happened to Bombay Canteen, it's Hunger.Inc together that will have to bear the brunt of it, because if without Bombay Canteen, Hunger.Inc could have never been successful. So right now we believe that we all need to do it together. So to be honest, and you will see these cycles, right? We see on some weeks that Bombay Canteen is doing tremendously well, and then next week it just falls off the cliff, and then Pedro picks it up, and then suddenly you have 10 cakes orders where you didn't have any cake orders at Brun and Babka. It's like a cycle, I think, that follows. So our whole goal this lockdown, and we know it's going to be a long journey ahead, is just help Hunger.Inc survive, and all of us need to do it together.
And you found that the team was receptive to this?
And I think to that question and to what Yash was saying, I think it's really involving the team through this process and thinking, right? I think the one big learning from the previous lockdown, and it came because we sat down with the team once we reopened in, I think it was November or December, when we took the time to sit down with the team. And the one thing we realized, what we'd ended up doing was Yash and I had ended up talking to each other, but the team didn't feel that they were part of the process.
Right.
And I think bringing that transparency into what is happening on the ground and involving them in the decision making, because the crossroads, like the crossroads you felt 2 weeks ago, I think we are going to face that continuously. There is going to, you don't know what's coming rest of the year, right? To Yash's point earlier, none of us have been prepared for this moment.
Right.
All we can do is the big learning for me has been, all we can do is be transparent about what the options on the table are, what is it looking like, what do we think it's going to turn into, and then see what's the best thing to do in that moment, and then reevaluate that in a few days. Because like it or not, the landscape is going to change in a few days.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that honesty is really the key here, and transparency, like you said. I actually had to resort to, for the first time, we created, that was sort of one good thing that came out of lockdown, was that we created this WhatsApp group, which had all, 150 odd employees on it. And for the first time, I had to do a video in Hindi, which will never, ever make its way into the public domain. But yes, the idea was that, jokes apart, the idea was to, I think, constantly communicate and just be honest about what the situation is. And I mean, this is the way we've been thinking as well, but it's great to sort of, hear from you that taking a holistic approach is the way to really tackle this.
What you were saying, right, Gauri? So last year when the lockdown happened, we used to do a monthly Zoom call where we broke it down into, we call it the newsletter Hunger.Inc WhatsApp group, which is all employees who come in, get added onto it automatically. Mm-hmm. And we used to share even things that could help them, because they were stuck in their villages and things like that. I think it was around April, we got everyone a COVID insurance, right? To just make sure that even
I remember you talked about this. Yeah.
But we had to then tell them how to use it and things like that. So we used to do these multilingual Zoom workshops where you put up the time and ask these guys, whichever one you're comfortable with, just add yourselves onto. And it helped, we used to first think, why will these guys download Zoom? And it helped tremendously. So we used to talk to them every 15 days. And even if we had to give them bad news, we had to give them bad news to say, sorry guys, we're closed another 15 days. But it was especially after that we did one meeting where we basically put all our decisions made in the last 6 months on a PowerPoint. And me and Sam explained why we took those decisions, right? And after every decision slide, we asked the team to just write down their thoughts on it, because obviously sometimes they find it difficult to voice their opinions. And a lot of them did not agree with those decisions. And we said to them, we are so sorry that, we didn't ask for your opinions, because at that time we were just so lost. So now we do these every 15 days where we ask the core team to tell us honestly, okay, we are in this situation. This is where we've reached our revenue for this month. At the end of this month, we'll be short by this much, right? What can we do? What can we do to motivate the team? And then make sure those conversations again are happening with the teams. Like one of the things we are doing right now is to incentivize everyone on the team to go get vaccinated. Like that's Hunger.Inc's goal, is to somehow get our team vaccinated, because we feel we really need to do that. So they get incentivized by money. And
how do they get incentivized? By money.
By money, and like a 3-day leave right after it, because you're going to fall sick because of the vaccine. But also to be able to explain that, right? Like the word, when you look, like something that Uddhav Thackeray does so well, right? Like the fact that he comes online and talks to everyone, maybe in a local language, and most of the time it's bad news, but at least you know what to expect, right? At least there's clear communication. So we do that. And thanks to Uddhav Thackeray, I know how to say vaccination in Hindi now. Lassikaran.
Oh, how is
Lassikaran.
It? What is it?
Lassikaran.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I learned something new today.
So yeah, I think it's important to have that. Like, and they understand it. Yeah. Like our teams, we are so, like, even with your team, I remember every one of them when I come to the restaurant, like they're so understanding, right? They know we are in the same boat as them. So they will understand when you just tell them, honestly, guys, this is where we are. Tell us what we can do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's some great tips out there about, firstly, incentivizing people. I mean, of course, right now with the slight shortage, that there is that challenge, but that's absolutely a great way to approach it. And of course, this constant communication, which is so integral to having, making it a team decision rather than a management decision. So, I want to talk, shift gear a little bit and talk about the 2 new brands that you've launched during lockdown. And these are so Brunn & Babka and King Fu Canteen, which are 2 delivery-only brands. And I understand that they are also only available through direct order and not available on the aggregator apps. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is a bold move, man. And it's really incredible. I mean, hats off for doing that, because obviously, you guys have been part of this whole conversation that we've been having in the last couple of weeks about encouraging, our guests to order directly with our brands rather than going through aggregators, because it does hurt our business. And, you've gone all out and done this. So what was the thought behind this? Firstly, with launching the 2 brands, and then also, of course, with just making it available directly through you.
So with launching the 2 new brands, I think, like I was mentioning a little earlier, like it literally was a response to the lockdown, right? Like we knew from the previous lockdown that we are going to fall short of certain cash flows, and how do we start sort of bringing that up so that, most importantly, as Yash was saying earlier, we survive as an organization. But also dealing with this lockdown at your own terms. I think all of us are at our happiest when we are creating, and creating delicious food is really sort of our reason for being in a certain way. So why not do that? And I think it was amazing to see like the team just rally around these 2 ideas and sort of bring them to life, as I was saying earlier, in about 3.5 odd days. But I think also the reason for taking them directly to our guests and not going through the aggregators was, like we said, it also will be a great way to have a direct conversation with our guests. At the end of the day, we have spent years building this community of people who support us, who love us, and why not sort of take this directly to them? And I think this was also only possible because of all the learnings we'd had over the previous year, right? Like we were already sort of
you had your own platform
delivering
already,
things.
Yeah.
We had our own platform through Bombay Sweet Shop, which had launched in March last year. We've been building almost that skill set and muscle to be able to build that logistics within the organization itself. And I think with partners such as Thrive, we were able to go to market super quickly. I think in any other situation, by the time you register something, send all the paperwork, etc.,
the lockdown's over.
It's 14 days done. Yeah, 14 days are done. So really, I think it was a combination of many factors. I think as far as aggregators go, I think this has been discussed on various sort of conversations. They're a necessary evil in terms of distribution, but should they be the only way of reaching out to your guests despite our main core business of dine-in being shut down? Not at all. And I think there are various ways to be able to do it. And I think the work that you as well as NRAI are doing in terms of like the advocacy and the education around it is so critical to take the fear out of doing it, right? Like a lot of the conversations have been like, oh, big brands can do it, we can't do it. But it can be done. You just need to know where to look. And unfortunately, you can't Google the answers to this. It is through conversations like the ones you guys are having, which is what will take the fear away and sort of create this new wave, so to speak, which is so important in maintaining the sustainability of our business.
No, I mean, absolutely, you're bang on. And, this, which is what we've been saying all along, that this isn't about, replacing one format with another, or one ordering system with another, but it's just that you have to start. And, yes, you may have a head start if you're an established brand, but, all the more reason then that take that plunge and start with, just your own platform, because you'll never be able to make that shift if you don't start somewhere. So it's great to see you guys doing this. And, I hope more brands follow suit. We're chatting in May 2021, 14 months into the pandemic. And like you said, we definitely don't seem to be done with it. How are you planning for the future? I mean, do you see this as a rather big bump in the road and that we will go back to the way things were as far as like restaurants are concerned? Or do you think that things have actually changed pretty drastically enough for you to rethink the way you will operate in the future? So I don't know, Yash, do you want to take this one, and Sam, share your thoughts as well?
So we have, we are lucky to have partners and investors who believe in the long-term vision of Hunger.Inc. So that helps a lot to have their support. So what we've done at Hunger.Inc. now is we have two plans. One is a 15-day plan. We've realized there's no point planning the whole month, because lockdowns and what's allowed and not allowed gets changed every 15 days, right? So we were building these 3-month marketing plans and stuff. And we were like, we need to be a bit more agile. So we built a 15-day plan on what needs to be executed. And at the same time, me and Sam have been able to put a document together of where we see Hunger.Inc. 3 years down the line. The silver lining of the pandemic has shown us a weakness that we never thought we had, was the delivery model. And I think you will agree, right? We never paid attention to it, right? And to the fact that for us, the silver lining then turned out to be Bombay Sweet Shop, where it was originally always going to be a D2C brand. But the whole point of Bombay Sweet Shop was for the first year only focus on an offline experience where people reimagine how mithai is perceived. But obviously with the pandemic, we opened 3 or 7 days before the lockdown in March 2020. So we've taken our time with it, and I think we just got done with it to say, okay, in the next 3 years, we've learned certain things with our team where certain people have really stood up and counted themselves in. And we've seen some strengths come out there to say these are things we can really work on. And if there is another lockdown, or if there is another pandemic, touch wood, there isn't, we should be able to bulletproof ourselves. But that's not going to happen this year. We know that it's impossible. So this year we just run off the 15-day plans. And then we've created this long-term vision for which we've already started hiring, because there are certain parts of our team which need tech expertise, which need long-term visions and stuff. So we've started hiring, knowing that in 3 years, we'll need to make this company a bit more bulletproof. I think Sam would.
Yeah, and I think it's basically the realization that struck us, especially as the second lockdown came in, is that you cannot have all your eggs in a certain basket, right? At the end of the day, the core at what 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 we are trying to do at Hunger.Inc. is sort of what started off with just wanting to open a restaurant. The reason why Bombay Canteen came alive at that point was that we wanted to celebrate India. It's sort of evolved into this philosophy of taking what is traditional in India and celebrating it, in whether it's in the form of mithai, whether it's in the form of Goan food, whether it's in the form of like Indian Chinese, etc. It's taken various forms. How do you build the organization to back those various forms is what we've realized, and that's what we're sort of working towards. I think Bombay Sweet Shop anyway came out of that realization like 3 years ago when Pedro opened. We really were like, will we go out and keep looking for 3,000 square feet places and keep building expensive restaurants? Even the answer to at that point was like pretty much, I don't know how sustainable this is. So which is where the thinking behind Bombay Sweet Shop started, that let's look at what we can take into people's homes, and mithai became that answer at that point. And it's like that behavior has been accelerated even more because of the pandemic at this point. So we will have to continue to evolve over the next couple of years to future-proof ourselves in a way as an organization. I think restaurants will come back in all its glory, because I think there is a certain beauty and essence to restaurants which are which is what make a city like Bombay what it is, and which is what makes the community what it is. And that will come back, but it's going to take a while. In the meantime, there's going to be many things we will have to do to survive, and then hopefully we can all come out of it on the other side of it stronger.
No, I mean, spot on. And I think for me, Sweet Shop is actually a really interesting hybrid, because it's not about being a purely offline experience with a little bit of delivery tagged on. It was like, I think it was, maybe I'm wrong, but I see it as being kind of equally weighted on the delivery aspect as well as, the dine-in or the visitor aspect of it. And I completely agree with you. And I think the only reason we are still sort of standing today, at least at Food Matters, is because I feel like our business is nicely hedged by the restaurant business and the delivery business. And what this lockdown has actually done is it's given delivery the limelight that I think it deserves but didn't have. It was kind of almost like this stepchild treatment that you didn't really care about. And like you said, we missed a big ticket on that one all this time, because we were so focused on the whole dine-in experience. So for those who've been able to pivot into this space and do it not necessarily just from the point of view of getting through right now, but maybe recognizing that there's a need for both, there's a demand for both, and that will continue, and being able to service that demand basically. Because like you said, I don't see restaurants going anywhere. I think you're absolutely right that it's a completely different experience that people are seeking, and that will continue to be, sought after. And delivery fulfills a completely different need. And it's not about one or the other, but I think the two have to coexist. So I see a lot of kind of similarities in the thought process, even with what we've done. You mentioned briefly before, you mentioned investors, Yash and Sam, maybe you want to take this, but do you still think this industry is an attractive option for investors?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I think it again goes back into exactly what we were talking about right now. Thinking needs to change in terms of what will eventually bring money back to the table to these guys, right? Like at the end of the day, it is not a philanthropic venture. People are backing you to execute, to make money. So how do you read what's happening over the next? And I don't think there's any crystal ball gazing happening right now, right? But at the end of the day, do you have a strong enough team that can execute and adapt is really the thing that we feel is the reason why our partners and investors are continuing to sort of be with us and support us in every way, shape, and form. And I think it extends to so many. It's not just investors, right? Like look at all of us. Like we're so heavily dependent on, let's just call it like our landlords. And if they don't see value in what we bring to them in the long term as teams, they will not continue supporting us. We've been fortunate that through all of this, we've had that support come in some way, shape, and form. And that's been so critical to survive this period. So I think that being able to like bring, like what will that nature of that value be as things go along is going to continue evolving, but like to be able to present it in a way so that people understand it, I think it will continue being attractive. I don't know, Yash, if
No, I do agree.
Well,
I think it's spot on.
Yeah, and that's good news for sure. So speaking of the future, we've all probably just heard that 11 Madison Park will be reopening as an all vegan restaurant. Do you see this as the future of dining?
Not the future for us because I won't eat.
Yash, is this where you're going to say, by the way, I'm vegan too?
Right. As in, I feel, I read that. I did read it. One is I respect everyone's choices. I think you might have seen it in the trends in the way people are ordering. We see it a lot at Pedro, the trend towards certain habits. And I feel I speak to Chef Hussain. So Hussain's taken up the mantle of both restaurants. And so Chef Hussain's worked at 11 Madison Park as well. And I keep telling him about the fact that we need to start thinking of evolution of the menu on how we need to look at eating habits. India normally takes at least 3 to 4 years to catch up on Western trends. And I feel this will come to us, but I don't think the time is now for it. I think we are a very different country. And 11th Madison Park costs an air ticket. So I think it's a different clientele. I do feel that I've seen a sport of healthy brands open up, which is a good thing, shows that the population is veering towards being healthy. But I don't think we are there yet. I don't know what Sam thinks about it. Especially for Bombay Sweet Shop, we ask ourselves this question a lot. And we always say anything in moderation is healthy, right? As long as you don't overdo it. So
exactly, I think that consciousness is definitely beginning to change a lot. But is it the only future? I guess the jury is out on that one, right? Like I think there will be a balance with which you will consume various things, and I think there is an environmental argument to be made for being vegetarian, for promoting veganism, etc., etc. And I think what is amazing about 11 Madison Park doing this, it is bringing a spotlight to this which has never existed before.
I mean, we're talking about it, right?
And exactly, and it will bring it into a conversation which might not have existed a couple of years back. I think, again, like, is the impossible beyond meat the way to go? Again, I'm not sure. It's, as in my very sort of novice point of view on it, is that it is also a form of processed food. And what is that doing to our bodies? What is that? What is going on with that is still, you're going to see it play out over the next many years.
I think there's still a lot of unknown, and there's still a long way to go in terms of actually understanding this more holistically before making a decision.
Exactly. And I think there's enough and more in terms of food trends that we've seen that take not years but decades to play out in terms of health benefits, in terms of like what our understanding is, etc., etc. And I think the same is going to happen.
Good. So you guys are not going vegetarian, and neither are your brands. So very happy to hear that. On that note, we're going to take a quick break before the final segment of the show, the rapid fire round.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawalla, host of the Empowering Series podcast on the IVM network. I happen to be a peak performance coach and leadership coach by profession, and I'm here to share with you productivity tools, life-altering techniques, and real-life hacks to help you achieve your maximum potential in everything you do, your relationships, professions, careers. So tune in every Monday to unleash your inner power. Be safe, be well, be empowered.
So welcome back. I have Yash and Sam with me from Hunger.Inc. And this is where I get to have all the fun now. This is my coffee with Karan moment with no coffee or gift hamper, but you still have to be completely honest, guys. So
why we don't get a year's worth of free delivery after this?
God.
That's what you said.
You'll get a free, you'll get, that's how I got you onto the show. But anyway, now.
At least deliver to Bandra.
Bandra? Oh God, no way. That's like the boonies. Okay. So listen, I'm going to ask you both a bunch of questions and then I have one for each of you. So what's your favorite comfort food? Yash, go first.
Pizza.
Really?
Yeah.
No, you're going to say some yummy Maharashtrian delicacy that your mom makes for you and that you're obviously craving.
I live with a German. My comfort had to change.
Ooh, I really hope the German isn't listening to this. Sam, what about you?
Funnily enough, the German might have said poha. So for me, I think if it's comfort food, it's rolls in any form. Easy.
You can plug in Iktara's Kati roll here.
Nice one. Brownie point for you, Yash. Okay, Yash, one restaurant you haven't been to yet, but can't wait to get to.
In India or all over the world?
Anywhere.
Oh, that's a good question.
Sam, do you have an answer? Well,
yeah, I ponder on this.
Have you
no, that you haven't been
to.
So one that's on your bucket list.
I would say Blue Hill at Stone Barns. Never been there, but would love to go there at some point just to see how they've created what they have over a couple of decades now or more. I think.
Absolutely. Yash, it can be one of the ones that you want to go to.
No, that's such a good question. You're making me cry on that. I don't know this answer. But I actually
want to go to. Well, anyway, you tell me. First.
I actually wanted.
I'm butting into your rap.
I wanted to go. Sam, you'll get the name. What was David Chang's the name of the restaurant that opened in Hudson Yards?
Gauri.
Yeah, because
isn't Hudson Yards closed for now?
Yeah, for now. Gauri also just shut down. The reason I wanted to go there, and I love the fact that you do a podcast, and I think all of us have got hooked onto podcasts by David Chang. But he did this podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was the first one that I listened to. And when Kavita, who, a co-founder of IVM, was like, Gauri, why don't you do one? And I was like, I want it to be like that. Yeah. I have no idea how to make it like that, but I want it to be like that.
He did that with the chef of Gauri, and I just love the way it went. So I know the restaurant's shut now, but that would have been something I really wanted to look forward to.
Yeah, mine was actually to try to go to 11 Madison Park because I've never been there and obviously heard
great things
so much and now
can I say it after this lockdown? I think we are going to only afford some poha. 11 Madison Park.
So we're all coming to your place.
I don't know why we are dreaming about meals in the US, but it's like.
Oh, you can dream. Yeah. You're allowed to dream. Okay. Have either of you ever dropped your title or business name to get special treatment? Remember the whole truth and nothing but the whole truth.
I think definitely dropped the fact that work in restaurants. I don't know how much outside
don't
Bombay.
Come on.
I don't think outside Bombay. To expect someone to know Bombay Canteen.
I totally do. So I have to tell you, I can't remember. I mean, I don't know if I have or haven't, but you know who always drops the table is my mother. She's always telling people that it's my daughter and son-in-law's restaurant. And it's so embarrassing because then I get these messages from chefs and restaurateurs saying, oh, your mother was here. And I'm just like, why would you even know that? But anyway.
I have done it.
Okay. You have?
I had done it because we were at a Mexican place. I'm not going to name it. And it took a long time for a picture of margaritas. And they told us, he was trying to explain to me what a margarita is and why when you get the drink, the glass is not full, but it's supposed to be half empty. And that's when I had to tell him. I did it. I wasn't angry. I just did sarcasm. I was like, thank you so much for that knowledge. I will do it at my restaurant, Bombay Canteen as well. So I did it.
Nice one. Yeah. Just slide it in there. Yeah. You know what I've done, which is really cheeky, is that I have it in my signature, right? And usually I just delete my signature because I'm like, that's just too much information. And but then I've sneakily just left that in there.
I thought you might have done it to get a reservation somewhere.
Yeah, no, for that. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So Yash, this one is for you specifically. If you had to do it all over again and had a choice between being a professional footballer or top restaurateur, which one would you pick?
Footballer for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like, I actually bother to follow you on Twitter, and then I don't understand half your tweets because they're just complete gibberish about football. And I'm like, I'm gonna unfollow this guy, and then you like drop a gem in there once in a while, and I'm like, okay,
I used to play. You know what? I'm gonna say it right now to all young people in India. Like when I mean young, like maybe 8 to 10 years old, and hoping that their parents are listening to podcasts. Please encourage your kids to play sports. And if they're good at it, call me. I'll be their agent.
Fabulous. I'm sending Dia over to you right now.
You just found out the segue of Hunger.Inc's long-term plans.
Oh. Sam, when will your Instagram account move from stalker status to influencer status?
Probably never.
What? So for those of you who don't follow Sam at Canteen Sam, and there still is yet to be a post. So I think.
And he has 2,500 following his talking. Yes.
What? Oh my God, how stupid are they? I think I'm one of them.
Wow.
But see, Sam, like everyone lives in hope. There's this eternal hope that you'll
make it
drop
happen.
a gem at some point.
Make it happen.
And now, you're just like increasing the pressure to make that first post like really incredible. So this is on you, man.
There is one post, but other than that, it's been a while. So maybe one of these days, maybe.
Oh, there is a post. I must have missed that one. Okay, before I let you guys go for real, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the restaurant business today?
Wait for next year.
Fair enough.
Don't get into it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And on that really happy note.
Wow, we went through all of that. I hope someone logged off like 5 minutes ago. Just to keep the inspiration going.
No, listen, this was like the most incredible restauranting playbook. And I love you guys for being so honest and, just being unfiltered and sharing, how you've spent the last few years and especially the last year, and just keep up this amazing job that you're doing. And I complimented you again, but I mean it. So thank you.
And honestly, Gauri, you keep inspiring us because I keep telling Sam, I don't know how Gauri has so much energy to do so many things and keep it going, and
exactly
you keep motivating us as well. So thank you so much.
Lots of coffee.
Exactly.
That's how it is. But thanks.
Always.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you.
Wow. That really felt like a cross between a mini MBA in restauranting and a therapy session for me. I hope you enjoyed listening from the minds behind some of Bombay's most beloved restaurants, and from all of us, we can't wait to have you dine with us again. Until then, mask up, stay safe, and order in from one of their brands tonight. I hope you enjoyed tuning in today. Do catch the earlier episodes when you get a chance, and more importantly, I would love to hear from you with your thoughts on the show. You can find me on Instagram at Gauri Devidayal, or on Twitter at Gauri Details, or LinkedIn. Either way, sit back and relax, because this round is on me.
Do you know Tamil? Tamil Puriyuma? Do your children enjoy great stories that inculcate good values? Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran and I host the Storytime Tamil podcast. I am excited to share a short story with great moral values every day. Listen to Storytime Tamil on the IVM podcast app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Feeling overwhelmed, anxious, struggling with too many obstacles, don't know where your life is headed? Well, if you are dealing with one or all of these, tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast, because in each episode, I share a life lesson, a life hack, a pro tip that can help you get your life back on track. All episodes are available on the IVM website, IVM Podcast app, or wherever it is that you get your podcast from.